Picture this, a young man in a tailored blazer, phone in hand, sitting in a courtroom like it's a private lounge. He's not afraid of the fine. He's afraid of being ignored. The hum of conversation filled the chamber until Judge Frank Caprio entered, his calm presence silencing the room. Across from him sat Trevor Benson, 18, confident, untouchable. His hair perfectly styled, his shoes polished like glass, and a faint smirk resting on his face. Caprio adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Benson, you've been charged with 3 counts of reckless driving, one of them near a school zone." Trevor leaned back, tapping his phone screen. "Right. Can we skip to the number? My lawyer will handle it." Caprio tilted his head slightly. "This isn't a transaction, son. It's a court of law." Trevor smiled faintly. "Then maybe speed it up. I've got a meeting." The judge's tone stayed even. "A meeting?" Trevor nodded. "Yeah, my dad's company. We actually build half this city. Maybe you've heard of Benson Development." The murmur in the room grew louder, half amusement, half disbelief. Caprio's lips curved, but not in humor. "I have. Tell me, Mr. Benson, did your father also teach you to interrupt a judge?" Trevor shrugged, twisting the keys of his Tesla around his finger like a toy. "He taught me not to waste time on lectures." Laughter broke from a corner of the courtroom, quickly silenced by Caprio's raised hand. "Then let's save time. You were clocked at 60 in a 20-mile zone. A mother was crossing the street with her child. Do you understand how fast 60 is in that distance?" Trevor smirked. "If I wanted to hit someone, I wouldn't have missed." The air went heavy. Even his lawyer winced. Caprio's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You think this is a joke?" Trevor met his gaze, unblinking. "I think you're overreacting. Nobody got hurt." Caprio studied him quietly. Not angry, not shocked, just deeply disappointed. Then he said, "You believe money erases consequence. You're about to learn that it doesn't." Trevor leaned back, crossing his arms. "Please, everyone's got a price." Caprio smiled faintly. "Everyone? I don't." He leaned forward, his tone shifting from calm to cutting. "Let me tell you something, Mr. Benson. Money can buy silence, lawyers, maybe even fear. But it cannot buy respect. And that's the currency you're running out of." The boy's smirk faltered for the first time. "Do you realize you could have killed a child?" The judge continued. "Do you realize that this minor offense might have left a mother burying her son today?" Trevor's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. The courtroom waited, the tension almost physical. Caprio finally leaned back, breaking the silence. "Good. You don't have an answer, because you don't have perspective." The judge's voice softened, though the words still cut. "You came here to pay a fine, but today, you'll pay attention." He closed the file gently. "You may think this is just another hearing. It isn't. It's a mirror. And when you look in it, you won't see your father's money. You'll see who you really are." Trevor let out a short laugh, more defensive than amused. "You done?" Caprio didn't reply. He simply said, "Not yet. Sit down, Mr. Benson. You're about to discover what happens when arrogance meets consequence." The courtroom went still. The narrator's voice, low and deliberate, filled the silence. He came with money, but he'd leave with something far rarer. A glimpse of who he might have been if anyone had ever told him no. The courtroom was still when Caprio spoke again. "Mr. Benson," he said calmly, "where is your father today?" Trevor's smile twitched. "Probably in Los Angeles. He's buying another hotel. He doesn't exactly clear his calendar for traffic court." Caprio nodded slightly. "So, he's aware of your hearing?" "Of course. His assistant sent someone to handle it. Trevor gestured vaguely toward the lawyer beside him. I'm here because the judge insisted on a personal appearance. Guess I'm the entertainment. Caprio's tone stayed measured. And your mother? Trevor's eyes flickered. Gone. She left when I was 10. Guess she got tired of pretending she liked the lifestyle. The words came out sharp, but there was something brittle underneath them, a crack in the marble. Caprio leaned forward. So, you live with your father? If you call that living. He's home maybe twice a month. The rest of the time he's in meetings, on jets, or too busy to talk. The judge's voice softened. That must get lonely. Trevor's chin lifted, defensive. No, I like it that way. People just slow me down. Caprio looked down at his notes. It says here your father paid your last 3 fines. Trevor shrugged. Naturally. It's easier that way. And if one day he stopped? The boy laughed quietly. He won't. He's obsessed with reputation. Can't have his son looking like a failure. Caprio's gaze stayed steady. And what about you, Mr. Benson? Are you obsessed with anything? Trevor hesitated. Freedom. I hate being told what to do. People think rules make them safe. I think they make them weak. Caprio let the words hang for a long moment. Then he said quietly, Do you know what the most dangerous kind of weakness is? Trevor tilted his head. No. What? Believing you're invincible. The boy forced a laugh, but it didn't land. The judge continued, voice steady as glass. I've seen your type before. Sons who mistake neglect for independence, who confuse attention with affection. You think you don't need anyone, but that's not strength, Mr. Benson. That's hunger. The courtroom was silent. Trevor shifted in his seat, the confidence leaking from his posture. Caprio glanced at the file again. You've had everything handed to you. The best schools, the newest car, a roof that cost more than most families make in a decade. But tell me, did your father ever hand you time? Trevor blinked. Time? Yes, the judge said gently. A dinner. A game. A real conversation that didn't end with a bank transfer. Trevor said nothing. The silence stretched until Caprio leaned back and spoke almost to himself. Money's a fine servant, but a terrible parent. A few quiet murmurs rippled through the crowd. Trevor tried to recover his composure. Look, Judge, with all due respect, this isn't therapy. I came to settle a ticket. Caprio's expression didn't change. No, you came to settle a pattern. You just don't know it yet. The judge folded his hands. Your father built half this city, you said. But from where I sit, it seems he forgot to build a home. Trevor's jaw tightened. You don't know him. You're right, Caprio said. I only know the silence he left behind. For the first time, the boy didn't have a comeback. His voice faltered. You think this is about him? It's not. It's about me being sick of people acting like I owe them something. Caprio met his eyes. You don't owe anyone anything, Mr. Benson, except yourself. And one day, when the cars, the hotels, and the excuses are gone, that debt will still be waiting. The judge paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. So, let's start there. You'll stay seated. I'm not finished with you yet. The narrator's voice slipped in as the camera panned across Trevor's restless hands. He'd spent his life buying exits, but that morning, for the first time, every door was locked except one. The truth. The next hearing began with a cold flicker on the courtroom monitor. Caprio had requested a video, footage from the city's traffic cameras. The clerk pressed play. The screen showed a gleaming silver Tesla slicing through a school zone. Children stood frozen on the curb, backpacks swinging in the wind. The car surged forward, tires squealing, music blaring. A second later, laughter filled the audio. Trevor's laughter. On screen, he was holding his phone out the window, recording himself. "If they can't cross fast enough," his voice boomed, "that's their problem." When the video ended, no one spoke. Even the air seemed to pause. Caprio leaned forward, his tone sharp but steady. "That was you, correct?" Trevor nodded once, lips tight. "Yeah. No one got hurt." "No one got lucky," Caprio corrected. "That's a very different thing." Trevor tried to meet his gaze, but the judge didn't blink. "Tell me, Mr. Benson," he continued, "what exactly was the point of this video?" Trevor hesitated. "It was just for laughs. People liked it. It got over 100,000 views." Caprio raised an eyebrow. "So humiliation and recklessness are a form of entertainment now?" Trevor's tone hardened. "You wouldn't get it. It's social media. It's how the world works." Caprio's voice dropped. "It's how cowards hide." That hit. The boy shifted, his leg bouncing. Caprio kept going, quietly, relentless. "Do you know who sent me this clip?" Trevor frowned. "How should I?" "The principal of Jefferson Elementary," Caprio said. He recognized the street. "And the little girl you nearly hit? She's his daughter." Trevor's eyes flicked to the monitor. For the first time, the smirk vanished. "She's 8 years old," the judge continued. "Her backpack was found on the road, Mr. Benson. She dropped it when your car passed. Do you find that funny?" Trevor swallowed. I didn't see her." "That's the point," Caprio said softly. "You never see anyone but yourself." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The judge tapped the file in front of him. "I also have a note from your school. It says you were expelled for aggressive behavior toward staff." Trevor let out a short, defensive breath. "They were picking on me. Everyone's jealous because I don't need to beg for attention." Caprio tilted his head. "And yet, here you are, begging for something much worse. Validation." Trevor's hands clenched into fists. "You don't know what it's like to be me." "You're right," Caprio replied, "but I know what it's like to be lost. And right now, you're lost in plain sight." The boy looked away. His breathing was uneven now, almost audible. Caprio leaned forward, voice low but firm. "You believe your father's name can shield you, but his money won't save you from who you're becoming." Trevor finally muttered, "You think I care what you think?" "No," Caprio said. "I think you care too much. About all the wrong things." He paused, letting the room breathe again. Then, "We'll take a short recess. When we return, I want you to think about this. If that little girl had died, would your father's lawyer post bail before or after the funeral?" Trevor froze. Caprio's tone softened, almost weary now. "Arrogance is loud, Mr. Benson, but guilt? Guilt is silent. And one day, you'll hear it, whether you like it or not." He rose, signaling the break. The narrator's voice followed, as Trevor stared at the blank screen where his laughter had just echoed. He thought the camera made him untouchable, but the lens had captured something he couldn't edit. The moment a boy's pride almost became a child's tragedy. When the court reconvened, the tension was a living thing. It hummed beneath every breath. Trevor sat rigid, his phone gone, his hands folded like someone trying to appear in control, but losing the grip. Judge Caprio entered with a single envelope in his hand. He didn't sit right away. "Mr. Benson," he began quietly, "your attorney mentioned that your father would attend today. Yet, I don't see him." Trevor gave a forced laugh. "He's busy. You know how it is. Meetings, investors, deals. He doesn't do small rooms. Caprio nodded. And when his son stands before a court, is that a small room too? Trevor's smirk faltered. He trusts me to handle it. The judge opened the envelope and pulled out a printed email. Your father's assistant sent me this. His voice was calm, but each word landed like a hammer. Mr. Benson Sr. regrets to inform the court that he will not attend. He believes his son must face the consequences of his own actions. Please ensure this matter remains discreet to protect company interests. The courtroom went still. Even the air conditioner's hum seemed to stop. Trevor's jaw tightened. Yeah, that sounds like him. He gave a shaky half-smile. He's just practical. Caprio studied him for a long moment. Practicality is a poor substitute for love. The boy's eyes flickered downward. You don't get it. He made himself from nothing. He worked while other dads played ball with their kids. He built an empire. And in the process, Caprio replied softly, he forgot to build a son. That landed. Trevor looked away, his throat moving, the muscles in his face tight. You don't know what it's like to live in his shadow. Caprio didn't raise his voice. You're right. But I've met 100 men who tried to outrun theirs, and every one of them ended up exactly where you are. Trevor snapped. Sitting in front of a judge? No, said Caprio. Sitting alone. The words hung there, heavier than any sentence. Then, unexpectedly, the judge leaned forward. Do you know why I do this job, Mr. Benson? Not because I enjoy punishment, because I believe people can change, but only when they finally look in the mirror and stop seeing everyone else's reflection. Trevor's voice cracked just slightly. And what if I don't know who I'm looking at? Caprio's reply was quiet, almost fatherly. Then that's where you start. A pause. The judge's tone hardened again. Your father's absence says enough. He's built walls around himself. Money, success, status. You've inherited those same walls, but you can still decide whether to stay trapped inside them. Trevor stared at the floor, breathing unevenly. Caprio stood, looking at the clerk. Bring in the next document. A photograph appeared on the screen. A boy of about 8, smiling awkwardly next to a man in a business suit. The caption read, Benson Construction Charity Event. Father and son. Trevor froze. Caprio's voice softened to a whisper. How long ago was that taken? Trevor's reply came out broken. 10 years, maybe more. And since then? Silence. Caprio finally said, He didn't come today, Mr. Benson. But I did. And I'm not here to ruin you. I'm here to remind you that the people who love you least shouldn't define you most. Trevor lifted his eyes for the first time, wet around the edges, but defiant still. You think one speech changes anything? Caprio shook his head. No, but silence never does either. He placed the envelope down. Tomorrow, I'll read my verdict. Tonight, go home, if you can call it that, and think about whether your father's absence hurts because you miss him or because you've started to become him. The narrator's voice entered over the closing silence. He'd spent years worshiping the man who gave him everything but presence. Now, for the first time, Trevor realized the worst inheritance wasn't money. It was emptiness. The following morning, Trevor arrived early. No phone, no jacket, no smirk. He looked smaller somehow, as if the air around him had grown heavier overnight. When Judge Caprio entered, the boy stood automatically, not out of defiance this time, but respect he didn't yet know he was giving. Mr. Benson, Caprio began, his voice even. You look different today. Trevor forced a half-smile. Didn't sleep. That's a start, the judge said. He motioned for him to sit. Tell me, did you think about what I asked? Trevor hesitated. You asked me if I was becoming my father. And? I think. His voice trailed off. I think I already did. Caprio didn't interrupt. The silence pulled the words out of him like a confession. I went home, Trevor continued quietly. He wasn't there, of course, but his study was. You ever seen a room where every award is polished, but every picture frame's empty? That's his life. And mine, too. The judge nodded slowly. What did you feel when you saw that? Trevor exhaled. Nothing. That's the problem. I wanted to feel angry or sad, but it's like I ran out of feelings years ago. Caprio's gaze softened. You didn't run out, son. You buried them. Trevor laughed bitterly. Yeah, maybe next to the people I used to care about. The judge studied him. You're not hopeless, Mr. Benson. You're just hollow, and that's not the same thing. Caprio reached for a file on the desk. Do you know what this is? Trevor shook his head. It's your record. 11 violations, all paid for by your father's company. The judge flipped through the papers. One caught my eye. A parking ticket at St. Mary's Hospital, 2:04 a.m. Why were you there? Trevor's jaw tightened. It was the night everything broke. Caprio leaned forward. Go on. Trevor's voice trembled. He called, said I was an embarrassment, said I'd never be good enough to carry his name. I drove until I couldn't anymore. Ended up in the hospital lot. Sat there for hours, just wanting to disappear. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of the clock ticking above them. Caprio finally spoke. And yet you didn't. Trevor's eyes flicked up. What? You didn't disappear. You're here, which means part of you still wants to be seen. The boy swallowed hard. Seen by who? He doesn't care. Caprio's voice lowered. Then stop living for the one who doesn't. Start living for the one who still can. Trevor blinked, confusion and something else, maybe shame, washing over him. The judge stood, his tone firm but almost gentle. You've been punished your whole life. Not by the law, but by indifference. That ends now. He held up the hospital record again. A police officer wrote a note on this ticket. Do you know what it says? Trevor shook his head. Kid was crying in his car. Didn't write him up for attitude. Wrote him up to get attention. Maybe someone will finally notice. The words hit harder than any sentence could. Trevor's voice cracked. I don't even remember him being there. Caprio nodded. Of course you don't. You were too busy trying not to feel. The boy pressed his palms together, a gesture halfway between prayer and surrender. What do I do now? Tell the truth, Caprio said. Out loud, for once, without sarcasm. Trevor took a long breath. I hate him, he said, voice shaking. But I don't want to be him either. I just don't know how to be anything else. The judge let the confession settle before answering. Then learn. That's what this moment is for. He closed the folder. Tomorrow morning, I'll give you my decision. But understand this. What I say will matter far less than what you choose after you leave. Trevor nodded. The narrator's voice followed softly as the gavel struck once. He'd spent years pretending to be made of stone, but even stone, when cracked, shows light. The courtroom was still when they returned the next day. No chatter, no whispers, only the weight of expectation. Trevor stood at the front again, hands clasped, eyes fixed somewhere near the floor. Judge Caprio looked at him for a long time before speaking. Mr. Benson, he said quietly, today isn't about punishment. It's about what comes next. Trevor nodded faintly. I figured the fine would be big. Caprio almost smiled. There won't be one. The boy blinked. What? The judge rose, his tone steady but full of gravity. You've already paid more than money could cover. You've paid with years of loneliness, pride, and pretending you don't care. That debt ends today, if you're willing to do the work to stay free of it. Trevor looked confused. What kind of work? Caprio gestured to the clerk, who handed him a letter. I've spoken with the director of St. Mary's Youth Center, a program for children without parents. You'll spend 2 months volunteering there. No chauffeur, no phone, no luxury. Just you and the kids who'd trade everything you have for one more hug. Trevor's jaw tensed. You're serious. Deadly, Caprio replied. You've been given everything but purpose. Let's see what happens when you earn something that isn't bought. The words landed like a verdict that reached deeper than law. The judge continued, softer now. I also spoke to your father again. He authorized the donation to the center. Nothing more. No visit, no call. Just money. Trevor closed his eyes, swallowing hard. That sounds like him. Yes, said Caprio, but that doesn't have to sound like you. The boy's voice cracked slightly. Do you think he'll ever be proud? Caprio finished for him. Maybe, but stop waiting for it. Pride from him will never build you. Pride in yourself might. A hush fell over the courtroom. Caprio leaned forward, the authority in his voice tempered with something almost paternal. You can't control what he gave you, Trevor, but you can control what you give the world. That's what defines a man. For a moment, the boy didn't speak. Then, quietly, what if I fail? The judge's eyes softened. Then you try again. Strength isn't never falling. It's standing up when everyone expects you to stay down. Trevor nodded, a single tear tracing down his cheek before he brushed it away quickly. Caprio looked at him with a faint, knowing smile. There. That's the first honest thing you've done here. He picked up the gavel but didn't raise it yet. This court doesn't close with punishment today. It closes with a beginning. You'll report to St. Mary's tomorrow morning. Dismissed. Trevor didn't move right away. He just stood there. The silence around him now different. Not judgmental. Expectant. As he turned to leave, he stopped near the door, hesitated, then looked back. Judge, do you really think I can change? Caprio met his eyes. You already did. You showed up. The gavel struck once, sharp and final. Outside, sunlight spilled through the courthouse steps. Trevor paused before the Tesla parked at the curb. The keys felt heavy in his hand. After a long breath, he dropped them into a trash bin and kept walking. Not fast, not slow, just forward. The narrator's closing line came quiet but resonant, like the echo of a lesson that lingers long after the sound fades. He walked into that courtroom thinking he owned the world. He walked out owning nothing, except, for the first time, himself.